I never imagined my life would unravel in the middle of a desert. But then again, I never imagined I'd pay a judge to save my own sons. My name is Gabriel Hargrove, and I've spent most of my adult life believing that money could fix everything: love, justice, loyalty. That belief cost me more than I could ever pay back. It started 2 years ago. My sons, Adrian and Lucas, were accused of something they didn't do, or at least I wanted to believe they didn't. The evidence against them was damning. A car accident that killed a young man, and a trail of witnesses whose statements contradicted each other in ways that suggested manipulation. I knew the system would chew them alive if I left it to chance. I didn't think, I just acted. I hired the most expensive lawyer in the city, a man named Victor Langley. And then, in a moment of desperation, I did something I had never imagined I would do. I paid Judge Merrick to look the other way. It wasn't cheap, but I had resources, and I told myself it was for my children. For Adrian and Lucas, my sons. The day the verdict came, I waited in a dimly lit corridor outside the courtroom. My hands were shaking. Victor emerged first, his suit perfectly pressed, his eyes cold and unreadable. "Gabriel," he said, his voice calm, "they're free. You did what you had to do." I smiled weakly. I wanted to feel relief, but all I felt was a gnawing emptiness. It was over, I told myself. The nightmare was over. For a few months, life returned to a fragile normal. Adrian, my eldest, took to his books and buried himself in school, while Lucas, the younger, tried to act as if nothing had happened. But I knew better. I could see the fear in their eyes, the subtle hesitation when someone looked too closely. And then, one evening, everything changed. It was a Thursday morning when I received the first message. No name, no number, just coordinates and a time. The message read, "Meet us at the site. Come alone, or your secret is public." I recognized the location instantly, the outskirts of the Mojave Desert. My heart raced as I realized someone knew. Someone knew what I had done. I spent the morning pacing, trying to convince myself it was a prank, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. By noon, I was driving across the barren landscape, my mind racing. I had no idea who I would meet or what they wanted, but I knew it was connected to Judge Merrick. I had left traces, too many traces. My money had bought me freedom for my sons, yes, but it had also painted a target on my back. The desert stretched endlessly before me, a white-hot expanse of sand and rock. I parked my car at the edge of Dry Wash, the coordinates leading me to a small plateau overlooking the valley. And then I saw them. Two figures, cloaked in long coats despite the heat, stood waiting. Their faces were hidden behind sunglasses, their posture unervingly calm. One of them stepped forward, and I recognized the voice immediately. "Gabriel Hargrove," said Judge Merrick. His expression was unreadable, but his tone carried a weight that made my stomach churn. "We need to talk." I felt my knees weaken. "Merrick, what do you want?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gestured toward the desert below. "Do you see that valley? Everything you've tried to hide, the payments, the lies, the manipulation, it's all exposed. Soon, everyone will know." I swallowed hard. I wanted to deny it, to claim ignorance, but deep down, I knew he was right. The desert didn't lie, and it seemed it had its own way of exposing truths. What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. Merrick's eyes darkened. "There are recordings, transactions, witnesses who have decided to speak now that your sons are free. You thought your money could erase this, but it only delayed the inevitable. You paid to manipulate justice, and now it's unraveling." Panic set in. My mind raced. Adrian and Lucas were out there, thinking everything was fine. I couldn't let this happen, not to them. I had to act. "I can fix this," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "I'll pay more. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't ruin them. Don't ruin my sons." Merrick studied me for a moment, then shook his head slowly. "You don't understand, Gabriel. This isn't about money anymore. This is about control, and you've lost it." Before I could respond, a loud noise echoed across the plateau. I looked down and my blood ran cold. A car was speeding toward us, kicking up clouds of dust. The driver's face was obscured, but the intent was clear. "Run," Merrick said, And in that instant, everything went into chaos. The car skidded to a stop, and 4 men jumped out, armed with rifles. I froze, unsure whether to run or plead, and that hesitation almost cost me. Merrick pushed me down into a shallow ditch just as the first shot rang out, the bullets tearing through the rocks around us. "What is this? Who are they?" I shouted, my voice breaking. Merrick didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a small device from his coat, a satellite tracker of all things, and pressed a button. A low hum filled the air, followed by a vibration that seemed to shake the ground beneath us. The attackers froze mid-step, confusion flashing in their eyes, and then retreated as if repelled by an invisible force. I gasped for breath, my heart hammering. How did you?" Merrick cut me off. "This desert has eyes, Gabriel. I warned you it would expose everything. You thought you were untouchable because of money. But money doesn't erase the past. It only delays it." I realized, then, that my life as I knew it was over. The children I had tried to protect were caught in a web I had spun, and there was no going back. The desert had shown me that my power was an illusion. Over the next few hours, Merrick led me to a small cabin hidden among the dunes. He told me everything. The recordings, the witnesses, even the fact that some of the people I thought were my allies were now working against me. Each revelation was a punch to the gut. By nightfall, I was alone with my thoughts, staring at the endless sky above. I had saved my sons with money, yes, but at what cost? Trust, integrity, peace of mind gone. The desert had exposed not just my actions, but the man I had become. Sleep came fitfully. When I woke, Merrick was gone. In his place was a note. "You cannot hide from what you've done. Your sons are innocent, but your soul is not. Choose carefully what you do next." I left the cabin and drove back towards civilization, my mind a whirlwind of fear, anger, and despair. Adrian and Lucas were waiting for me, oblivious to the danger that had lurked just beyond the horizon. But I knew, deep down, that the desert's truth would not be denied forever. And when it returned, nothing would be the same. The next morning, I called Adrian and Lucas into the living room. Their faces lit up when they saw me, full of hope and the naive confidence of youth. I forced a smile, tried to hide the exhaustion and terror gnawing at my insides. "Dad," Adrian said, "are we okay now? Is it really over?" I nodded, but my voice betrayed me. Yes, it's over. For now." Lucas frowned. "What do you mean, for now? What's wrong?" I wanted to tell them everything. I wanted to unburden my heart and confess the truth, but I knew I couldn't. Not yet. The world wasn't ready for the full story, and neither were they. So instead, I kissed their foreheads and said, "Nothing. Just enjoy being free. That's all that matters." But the truth has a way of leaking out, no matter how carefully you guard it. Over the next few days, I noticed subtle changes. A knock at the door late at night. A car parked down the street for hours. And messages, cryptic, threatening, demanding more than I was willing to give. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, I received another message. "Meet where the desert begins." Alone, my stomach turned. I knew who it was. Merrick, or someone acting on his instructions. I couldn't let Adrian and Lucas see me like this, filled with fear and dread. I had to face it alone. I drove back into the desert, my headlights cutting through the approaching darkness. The coordinates led me to the same plateau, but this time the silence was heavier, more oppressive. I could feel eyes on me, though no one was there. "Gabriel Hargrove," a voice called from the shadows. It was Merrick. "You're finally here, ready to face the consequences." I clenched my fists. "I've already faced them," I said, though my voice shook. Merrick stepped into the dim light, his eyes sharp and calculating. "Have you? You've been running ever since you tried to buy your son's freedom. Running from the truth, from yourself. The desert doesn't lie, Gabriel. And neither do I." I swallowed hard, trying to steady my racing heart. "What do you want from me?" I demanded. "To understand," he said simply. "To realize that your actions, no matter how well-intentioned, have ripple effects. You paid to manipulate justice. You endangered lives. You created enemies. And now, all of it is coming back to you." A sudden noise made me jump, sand shifting beneath my feet. I turned to see footprints converging from all directions. People I had trusted, people I thought were gone, agents, witnesses, even some of Merrick's own assistants. They emerged from the dunes like ghosts. "You see," Merrick said softly, "you cannot control everything. The desert doesn't bend to money. It bends to truth." Fear surged through me. I realized that my entire life had been built on illusions: money, power, influence. And now, stripped of all that, I was just a man standing in the desert, vulnerable, exposed. Hours passed. Conversations, confessions, threats, they all blurred together. By dawn, I knew there was only one path forward: transparency. I had to confess, not just to the world, but to my sons, to myself. Driving back, the desert stretching endlessly behind me, I rehearsed the words I would say. Adrian and Lucas had a right to know the truth. They had a right to understand the choices I had made for them and the consequences that came with those choices. When I finally sat them down, the confession poured out of me like a dam breaking. Payments, bribes, lies, the fear I had carried for years. I told them everything. There were tears, anger, even moments of disbelief. But in the end, there was understanding. Not complete forgiveness, but the beginning of it. And in that fragile space, I realized something important. The desert had exposed me, yes, but it had also given me clarity. Money cannot buy loyalty. Money cannot buy love. Money cannot erase the past. Only honesty, courage, and accountability can. Adrian and Lucas hugged me, their faces wet with tears, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace. It wasn't the peace of innocence or ignorance. It was the peace of facing reality head-on. Life after that day was not easy. The desert's lessons lingered. I had to rebuild relationships, regain trust, and live with the knowledge of my mistakes. But I survived and my son survived, and that was enough to start again. As I write this now, I am sharing it with the world to remind anyone who thinks they can manipulate fate with money. The desert sees everything. The truth always finds its way out. Learn from my story. Value honesty. Cherish the people you love. And never, ever think you can escape the consequences of your actions. If you're reading this, take a moment to reach out to someone you've wronged, to admit mistakes, and to make amends. Life is too short to let money, fear, or pride control your choices. Be brave. Be honest. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find redemption before the desert exposes everything. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow for more dramatic stories.